Yo, what is up, and welcome to the Mewcario. I'm your host, Mewcario, and today we're going to be talking about UI and add-ons. If you're interested in more of these short form kind of tutorial slash guide videos, go ahead and hit the video with a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. If you have any feedback on past videos, this video, or videos that you want to see in the future, go ahead and leave all that feedback in the comments below, and I'll try and integrate it into future videos. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump into this one. So for starters, I think UI is the most important part of the game. If your information is not clunky to find or efficient to read or easily accessible, and by that I mean all of your spell abilities, health, target information, all that kind of stuff, it's going to feel bad to play the game. It's going to feel bad because you're going to be looking back and forth, or you're not going to be able to easily know, hey, this is on cooldown, this is off cooldown, all that kind of information. So it's very, very, very important to create your UI to be as efficient as possible for you. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people like to go to their favorite YouTuber streamers, whatever the case may be, and just copy their UI. Their UI is tweaked specifically for them, and you should tweak yours specifically for you. If you're somebody who doesn't really raid, you don't need a bunch of information on data tracking and stuff like that, and you might need a bit more bars if you're a PvPer for focus macros and all that kind of stuff. Again, just make everything for you. So the base of my UI is going to be LVUI. The reason I use this is because it kind of condenses 7, 8, 9 different add-ons into a single place. It gives me unit frames, it gives me bartender, it gives me something like Bagnon, it gives me something like Titan panel. It does a bunch of different add-ons into a single interface. So I can just go to my LVUI and I can very easily change different things. I can toggle to change the positions. If I want to change this, I can very easily go ahead and change the amount of wraps, the amount of sizes, all that kind of information. Again, it's very easy to customize. This is why I use it. You don't necessarily need to. If you want to see a video on making it more modular and doing all of this but in separate different add-ons, I can go ahead and make that as well. But this is what I use because it's the most efficient for me. Aside from that, most of my add-ons are going to be quality of life. A lot of them you can do without, but it makes the game more enjoyable for me and adds the information that I want to see. So for instance, big debuffs. I'm a big PvPer, so it's very important for me to see big debuffs because it puts a debuff next to their nameplate, so I can track who's stunned, who's feared, and I don't stack those DRs. You can do without it, especially if you're not a PvPer. I personally couldn't do without it. I'm just so used to it now, and I think it's hugely beneficial. Next is going to be details. What this does is just basically just tracks everybody's damage in the current fight. So for somebody like me that is constantly tweaking talents and stuff like that, it helps me see what damage is working, how much everything is doing, because as you can see here, I can just hover over it and it'll tell me how much I did to my target, how much each spell did, or I can click it and it'll show me an even bigger breakdown. It'll show how many times I hit, the average, the minimum, the max, all that kind of information. Again, you don't need this, but I personally really like seeing the damage and seeing the minute breakdowns of how much everything was doing. Next, we have Gladius. You can skip this if you're not a PvPer because all this does is change the arena frames. If you are a PvPer, I do think this is another essential add-on because it helps. You can change exactly where it is, and it'll track things like cooldowns, trinkets. It'll also show the DR on specific fears or on specific CC. It'll notify you when they're CC'd, all of their different classes, specs, health, all that kind of information. It condenses all of the information that you need on your arena enemies into one single spot. Excuse me. So next is immersion. Again, you don't need this. It's probably my most cuttable add-on, but I personally like it. What it does is just changes the dialogue interfaces to talking heads with scrollable pages instead of having that like big yellow/orange scroll looking dialogue window. I just personally find it more enjoyable to quest and go through the expansion with that. It makes it feel quote unquote more immersive. Mogget, what this does is when I get gear, I can just hover over it and it'll show me exactly what it would look like. Again, you can do this by just holding, I think it's control, so it just saves me a click, but again, I like being more efficient. The less things I have to do, the better. After Mogget, we have Move Anything. So if you're using the default UI and you're not using something like LVUI or something that has it integrated, what this allows you to do is take the windows and move them, because by default it will pop up on the left and you can't do anything about it. With this, you can have multiple open, you can put them in specific orders, change them to however you want to change them. And yeah, apparently you can't move your bag though. Did not know that. Addons next is nameplate SET, which is just scrolling combat text. So as you're doing damage, it'll pop up the numbers of how much damage you're doing. You can change the font, the size, what pops up. So if you only want damage and don't want to see heals, or you only want to see heals and not damage, or you only want to see crits, or you only want to see whatever the case may be, you can change all of that. Again, you don't need it. I just like seeing that kind of information again to see what's working, what's not working. After that, we have pawn, which basically just tells me what stat increases or decreases I'm going to be getting for gear. So as you can see here on the currently equipped, at the bottom it'll tell me in red I'm going to be losing all of these stats. If it's a beneficial thing, it'll show me in green that I'm going to be gaining all these stats. If it's actual gear, I think it'll also have like a little green arrow pointing up on the corner, just showing, hey, this is a increase to your gear. And it'll also show you a little breakdown on the bottom, like this is 20% more DPS or whatever. Again, you don't need it, but I like having it. Pawn, we just went over that. Rare scanner, as you're going through different areas, different zones, it'll just have a little pop-up that says, hey, there's an elite spawned here. It drops this thing. You can click on me and it'll show where it is on the map. Again, you don't need it, but as I'm questing, if it's nice to have to see what elites are spawned, and I can check through their drops because it'll just show that at the bottom of the window. If I'm looking to upgrade a specific gear, it makes things easier while you're questing, just to do a quick little elite or a quick treasure chest to get an upgrade on a piece of gear. After that, we have tidy plates. What that is a nameplate add-on. There's a bunch of different ones that do nameplates. LVUI actually has their own like one integrated into it. Personally, I just visually like the way that tidy plates looks better, especially when it's doing things like my Affliction Warlock. It stacks all of the debuffs above them and it shows timers and stuff like that. And for me, it just visually looks, and I understand it the easiest out of all of the different ones that I've tried, including the LVUI default. But again, you don't need to have this specific one. However, I do think some sort of nameplate add-on is 100% necessary. Again, just to make it easier to find, because like this one, I have it set so my enemies are tracked by class. So if I'm looking for healers or whatever the case is, I can specifically target those classes or those specific names, and it's just easier to find. Tomcat, what this is it tracks in the map all of the different elites, mobs, treasure chests, all that kind of stuff. It shows you where they are, what they drop, how long they're going to last, the last time that they were seen, all of that information. You can find all of that here. I think it's hugely beneficial, especially if I'm doing something like world quests and world bosses and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it shows it by default because I've just always had it since I discovered it, but it'll show you the last time it was killed, if it's still available, again, how long it'll last, and I just love having it. It's super useful while I'm normally just in a zone questing, especially with covenant callings and stuff like that. After that, I have True Free GCD, which this is as you can see, the global cooldowns. It shows just basically skills or spells as you press them. So again, you don't need this. However, I do personally think it's really important to have, especially as a potential content creator, because it just shows the viewers exactly what you're using. So in the case of PvP, if somebody was watching my videos and trying to see what rotation I was doing, they could very easily see it up here. It'll show the exact order as I'm pressing them, and you can change the size. You can change if you're, let's just go here and show you. You can change if you want to track parties, if you want to track your arenas, if you want to track your target. You can see what they're casting. So let's say you want to put the target, you can use this to track what spells they're using. So you see them pop I don't know, Divine Shield or something like that, you know, hey, I'm going to back off because they just used this. Or Mind Games, you see the Mind Game icon, you know, okay, well, let me not heal or anything like that. It's hugely beneficial for the viewer, but it also does have his purposes for non-aesthetic reasons. After this, WeakAuras. WeakAuras is a tricky one. I personally don't use it as much as other people do. I kind of just have this to try and force myself to use it, but a lot of streamers, a lot of pros use it, and it does have its uses, especially for things like tracking class energy, like my soul shards, specific defensives. You can track your rotation. You can customize it if you know how to build them. I don't, so I just go to a website. I think it's called wago.ai or UI, something like that. And I just search for whatever type of WeakAura I'm looking for, whether it be for a specific class, or as you can see here, I have one that has a circle around my mouse, which this just tracks where my mouse is as I'm panning through a camera, so I don't ever lose track of it. It can do things like that. Again, I just copy those things, go into my WeakAura interface, import it, and then copy and paste it. If you want to create your own, if you're smart enough and have the time to do that, you can just go to new aura. You can track it yourself, change the icon, change when it pops up, all that kind of information. I'm not good enough, smart enough, or patient enough to create that, so I just copy and paste them. But you can do a lot of different things with WeakAuras. So I do think it's kind of essential to have, but it's as essential as you make it. It's not as necessary as something like this that's just always going to be useful to you. And I think the last one is Deadly Boss Mods. So Deadly Boss Mods is the most mandatory add-on in the game if you're a PvP or PvEer. So if you're doing mythics, if you're doing raids, all that kind of stuff, this is a must-have. What this does is it'll have a big pop-up on the screen that says, hey, boss mechanic is incoming. They're targeting X person, and it's going to happen in 3, 2, 1. And it'll count down, and then it'll have a big alarm or whatever it is that you set. The text will flash, and you know, hey, the mechanic is going on. Let me move. Let me do this. It's super essential that you have this for PvE. Even if you're not somebody that raids or mythics, if you do casual dungeons, it's very useful to have because it also does mechanics for that. It even you can have the PvP extension, so it'll tell you, hey, person X capped the flag, or there's this person is at mines trying to capture the point. It'll have the same pop-up, the same alarms, all that kind of information. You can change when it triggers, how big it is, what animation sounds, all of that. It's super, super useful, and yeah, especially if you're a PvEer, somebody who cares less about PvP, this is the most important add-on in the game. So that's going to be it for the UI and add-on video. Again, just quick overview of the essentials. Deadly boss mods, essential for PvE. Some sort of UI base, I would say, is essential, but you can also make it more modular and split it up into separate add-ons if you want to. Just overall, you need to make sure that you can customize your UI as much as possible. WeakAuras has a lot of customizability, a lot of different things you can do with it, but you're going to have to learn it. It does take some time and is only as useful as you make it. A nameplate add-on is 100% necessary. It doesn't have to be tidy plates, but just something to make nameplates look more appealing to you and track the information that you need to track. 100% necessary if you're a PvPer. Gladius and big debuffs, 100% necessary because it tracks cooldowns, CC, and helps you prevent from stacking DRs. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit the video with a thumbs up. Again, if you didn't, or if you want to see different videos in the future, go ahead and leave all of that feedback in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and get to it as soon as I possibly can. But in the meantime, I'm going to head out from this one. Hope you guys liked it, and I will see you next time. Bye!